Picture this. You find the perfect job on Jobberman. You take a look at the requirements, experience level, education, and skills. You tick all the boxes, right? Easy peasy. You feel like a toddler who just got their favorite lollipop. You apply and wait for the employer to call you for an interview. But radio silence. There's no response. Why? You wonder. Because our system only ranks applicants who match the employer's job requirements and have complete and detailed information on their profiles. So, if you haven't updated your professional summary, work experience, experience level, and education, you won't be ranked. But if you do update your profile, the system will present you as part of the most relevant applicants to the employer or recruiter looking for people like you. This means employers can also invite you to apply for jobs as soon as they go live, when the system recommends you based on your complete profile. Remember, all these features are not privileges reserved just for a few. This is an opportunity for all job seekers, including you, to increase your chance of finding that dream job that suits you best. Don't miss out on your dream job. Make sure your profile is complete and updated today.
Hi there. Here's how to create a job alert on Jobberman. First, log into your Jobberman account. Click on My Job Alerts, then click on the Create Job Alert button. First, name your job alert. For example, Product Designer Job Alerts. Click on the drop-down for the job function and choose up to 3 job functions that interest you. Click on the drop-down for the industry and choose. Click on the drop-down for location and choose your desired job location. Click on the drop-down for work type and choose your desired one. Click on the drop-down for experience level and choose. You can select multiple options. Then click on if you want to receive these job alerts through email or your browser. If you choose the email option, you can receive this email hourly, daily or weekly. Then click on Save. Don't forget to allow browser notifications if you choose the browser option. That's it. You have now successfully created a job alert. You can click on Edit it to change some details. Or you can create a new alert by clicking on Create Job Alert and restarting this process.
Hello, my name is Fauzia Mutalib, and last year in November, I was fortunate to be part of the MFIT project organized by Jobberman in collaboration with GIZ. I was able to secure a job through Jobberman and the MFIT project with CBG Ghana. I currently work as an IT control monitoring officer with the Internal Control Department, and for the past 6 months, I have a job and I'm happy. So I'm grateful to Jobberman Ghana and GIZ for organizing the MFIT project, which has helped me secure a job, a permanent job. So thank you, and hopefully the project continues and more people are able to benefit from it. Thank you, Jobberman. Thank you, GIZ.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar, Mastering Job Interview Skills, Techniques for Success. My name is Alfred Kwe, an HR recruitment specialist with Jobberman Ghana, and your host for today's webinar. Today, we are going to learn how to ace that interview. How are we going to do that? We have with me seasoned experts that are going to teach us all the tricks that we need to know in acing that interview and then landing that new dream job or moving from the job that you're in to the next one. So I have with me here today professionals, two professionals actually. One goes by the name Mr. Bright Williams, who's an HR recruitment specialist with Jobberman Ghana, and Etonam Wodi, who happens to be the recruitment lead for Jobberman Ghana. So guys, welcome. Hello, Bright, Etonam.
Hi,
Hello,
Alfred.
can you please hear me?
We can
Alfred,
hear
you are here. We can hear you very clearly.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for making time to join me here today.
Most welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I just want a little intro as to what to expect on today's webinar.
All right. I think that many times over as recruiters, we've seen candidates who are exceptional. Alfred, can you hear me?
Alfred, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So for what our listeners or viewers should expect, as recruiters, we've seen how many times over
yes, I can.
We see people who are exceptional when it comes to their technical and soft competencies, yet, I mean, they're not able to pull through an interview process because of the kind of pressure that comes with interviewing. A lot of that pressure can be taken away just by knowledge. And so we are just here to sort of let candidates in on what to expect during an interview to really calm down the nerves and give them that opportunity to be able to be their best during any interview at all.
Okay, right. Is there anything that you'd want to add?
Yeah, I think Ethanam has said it all. For today, the expectation should be on mastering your job interviewing skills. And we believe that there are certain basic information that when you get it right from onset, you will be able to navigate your search and also your interview process very well. So I believe that at the end of this session, you shouldn't expect anything than good knowledge to navigate your interviewing sessions. Yeah.
Great. Guys, you've heard it all. So today we are going to learn how to ace that next job interview and landing our next dream job. As a job seeker, I just want to touch a little bit on why you need to sign up onto the Jobberman platform. And not just sign up, but then you are supposed to sign up and also update your profile. And then this increases your chances in landing your next job. So once you have a very good CV, the next thing is going for an interview. And then from there, if you're able to excel during the interview, you land your next job. And also, let me just remind you that Jobberman offers free CV reviews as well. So if you have a CV that you want us to review for you, we can do that for free. But then if you want us to write a CV for you, we can do that, and then you just pay something more. But as a job seeker, if we help you get a job, you're not supposed to pay anything at all. This comes freely. So thank you all for joining. Thank you, Bright. Thank you, William, and everyone joining from LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram Live as well. We have a couple of questions coming in. So without wasting much time, we can zoom into the session. So I have one question here. It says that what are the top qualities or skills employers look for during interviews? So be it mid-level, entry level, or senior level.
Okay, Alfred. All right, let me
Yes.
talk on it. All right. So when it comes to let me pick it from the entry level. Okay, as a recruiter or as employers,
Okay.
normally when we want to look at entry level roles, definitely we are looking at people who are now coming out of school or they've just come out of national service, so they don't have much experience in this field. And to interview such people, definitely employers are looking for skills like adaptability. How will you be able to adapt to their environments, their principles, their core values? Your willingness to learn. It's one of the most important things we look out for because we believe that if you have the ability and enthusiasm, like there is a passion and alacrity burning inside you to push you into applying for the role, they want to see that burning desire that you are actually in need of the role and you have the desire to actually pursue the role, not just the role, but working for the organization. Then, as well, they would like to look at positive attitude as well, because no employee would like to employ anybody who isn't culture fit. So, these are the main three things when it comes to an entry level. Employers or recruiters look out to your adaptability to the systems already in place, your willingness to learn, then also a positive attitude. But when it comes to problems, the mid-level, we look at the problem-solving skills. So let's look at, when we talk of mid-level, we are looking at people who have experience from 3 years, let me say 5, 6 years. And these people are in the space where they have been in the job market for a while. So if you are going for a role or an interview where you fall within this range, then I believe that you should be getting ready or getting yourself prepared for questions that will probe into problem solving, teamwork, and also evidence of growth. We want to see how oriented are you when it comes to problem solving, the ideas that you bring on board. They want to look at how you'll be able to gel with your team and also report within your team. So being a team player is very, very important when you are in the mid-level. So if you are interviewing for a mid-level role, be ready that you'll be very vast experience when it comes to having enough experience as a team. So demonstrate your teamwork. Don't just list it as an ability, but you have to demonstrate it. How were you able to work with a team? So always make sure that you go with examples of your previous workplaces, how you're able to gel with your team from day one to you left and co. Then you look at evidence of growth. So if you have an evidence of growth, that is what we are looking for. The reason is that from mid-level, you'll be upgrading to the senior level. And if you don't have evidence, do you understand, of growing in your role, then no employer will be ready to sacrifice their time in teaching somebody who isn't really ready to grow. So one of them is rescaling and upscaling. So they want to see your about. They could pose a question like, in the next 5 years, what or where would you want to be? So such questions are questions that want to probe into your growth process, whether you are comfortable with where you are or you feel like you should grow in the process and even with a higher or a bigger ambitions for the future. Then when I want to tackle on the senior level, questions which delves deeper into leadership, because this is a senior role where interviews are conducted to, let me say, managers, board members, CEOs, COOs, CFOs, and co. And we believe that at a senior level, you should be ready to man your team. You should be able to manage a team. So leadership is so important. So questions delving into how you were able to navigate, even when you were a mid-level employee, how you were able to navigate and even lead at a point. Because leading is not only about actively being appointed as a leader, but passively you can be leading on the side. Then also we want to see how strategic you are when it comes to your vision and also decision making. So these are mainly some of the things we look out for as well in a senior level? Hello, Alfred? Hello, Tonam. I think we have to take it from here, and you can also come in with any adapts to the question that Alfred shared earlier. Hello, Hannah. All right. So before, as my colleagues join the meeting, I will delve deeper into the earlier question asked by Alfred. You see, so let me go back to the mid-level role. The mid-level role is a very crucial role because it is the longest stay or span when it comes to being an employee. People stay at the mid-level for over 15 years. So if you are staying on the mid-level or at the mid-level stage and you are not really demonstrating leadership, you'll be there for so many years. You'll be there for so many years. People will come and bypass you, and you'll be complaining to people. Why is it that this person just came and bypassed me? Why is it that I've been here and this person came and is even taking more than I do? Why is it that I'm not growing? You are not giving me any sign of growth. So, as at the mid level, we believe that candidates should be very intentional, okay, at this role, at this level. They should be very intentional so that they can demonstrate. Don't wait for you to be told. So you have the opportunities to initiate. You understand? People are promoted just because of the initiatives they took, the things that they did outside their main role, which could lead them into taking advantages of, and they could be remembered for those activities or those moments. So I believe that at the mid level, if you are not actually demonstrating growth, you will be there for so many years. So I admonish all candidates and all of us that we should try in one way or the other to grow.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much for
Yeah.
sharing that, right? With Alfred dropped off, he should be joining us any moment from now. So we're just going to get into the rest of the line of questioning. You have spoken extensively on what to look out for as a candidate in an interview, addressing both entry, mid, and senior level roles. The key thing for someone who is entering, which I believe most of our audience are, there's a saying that an employer for an entry person will be hiring you for attitude and training you for skills. So you want to pay close attention to what kind of attitudes that are employable. So those are the things that you want to work on and hone, positioning yourself to be attractive to a potential employer. So we are going to get into how can candidates make a great first impression during an interview, both in person and virtual. The reason, okay, Alfred is back. Alfred, I would hand over to you now if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
So I have this question in particular that I normally find myself asking, or during interviews, you find some people approaching and be like, so during interviews, how do you answer the question, tell me about yourself? What exactly do recruiters want to know? What do the employers want to know? How do I go about answering this question? Could you guys maybe touch on how to go about it? What exactly you are looking out for when you ask the question, tell me about yourself?
Right. I think that you as a recruiter, Alfred, yourself have come across people who tell us everything. It's like a biography with just the tell me about yourself question. But the key thing is to bear in mind that there's an elephant in the room. In this case, that would be the job on the table. And so the thing that's important to the employer is matching your skills to the responsibilities the role is demanding. So in answering the question, tell me about yourself, we want to see you articulate a combination of your experiences and then also your formal training and how it impacts the job. It's as simple as that. Even if you want to talk about the excesses, this should come before. And the truth is, by the time you're giving us this information, which is your formal training, your experiences, how it impacts the job, all the other things you are saying are history. Like, we've gotten the main thing, and so we just zone out, looking to ask you the next question. So that's what we look out for. How are your experiences and your formal training impacting your ability to do the job on the table? Is there anything else you'd want to add, Bright? So that we can get into the other things. If not, I was asking this question, that how can candidates make a first great impression during an interview, both in person and virtual? And we segregated this into in person and virtual because virtual interviews have become prevalent. Typically, you would find in-person interviews now like probably the last stage of engagement. So as a candidate going into an interview, I want to make a great first impression. Can you just share, in person, what are the things to look out for? Virtually, what are the things to look out for?
All right. So, lately, because of AI and proximity, so definitely virtual meetings had come to stay, and they are actually part of the recruitment process or the interview process. And when it comes to, I want to begin with the in-person interviews. In making a very first impression for an in-person interview, I believe that arriving on time is non-negotiable. Arrival is, especially being on time, is highly non-negotiable because we believe that if you are able to come as early as possible, it gives a sense of placing value on the interviewing process and also regarding it as importance as the employer does. In addition to making a very good impression or first impression in an interviewing process, an in-person one, definitely your dressing, that's your grooming should be on point. Know exactly what the role is. Research about the organization and know how they do their things. But dressing appropriately, especially formally, is non-negotiable for an in-person experience or interview because we believe that first impressions last very long. So if you're able to show us, even without opening your mouth, there could be judgment. Okay, people could begin to brandish you just because you've appeared in a particular way. Then we also look at maintaining a very good posture during an interviewing process. Don't be shaking in your chairs. Don't be fidgeting with your phones as well. And pay very much attention. In fact, don't sit relaxed in your chair. No matter how relaxing the chair had been given to you, make sure that you sit upright. Pay attention. It is assumed that if you sit in a relaxed posture in a chair, you don't listen. So in an in-person interview, I believe that what cuts off for me is you arriving on time, dressing appropriately, and also maintaining a very good posture during the interviewing process. There is one thing that I would like to add to arriving on time, okay? When arriving on time, we believe that for you to be a very good candidate during an interview process, when you arrive on time, at least 30 minutes before time, the last thing you should look out for or read before you enter the interview room is the job description. it should be the last thing you read before you enter the interviewing session. The reason is that whatever they are looking for is on the job description. So make sure that is the last thing that you read when you arrive on time. Then delving into virtual interviews as well. We believe that tech had come to stay. And if you are here and you are not tech savvy, you better find a way to navigate. Because the first thing you have to do is that when an interview is being scheduled and it's a virtual interview, first of all, try and enter the meeting, test your microphone, test your speaker, test everything you have to do. In fact, you can even enter the meeting and do a prelude. Yeah, just try to see how you navigate yourself, familiarize yourself. If you're having a challenge with your system, make sure that you address it before the time is up. Then also, you have to be able to maintain a very good eye contact via a virtual interview. Because if you are not really prepared, it will reveal. You know, sometimes candidates even go as far as reading to to us, you know, or to your employers or the interviewer. I will pray and also admonish that we desist from reading and also trying to read from external sources during an interviewing process. The reason is that when a recruiter is interviewing you, he is looking at your eye contact. We want to see what you are looking at on the screen. Some could be using phones, some could be using the laptops.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I
Yes,
think you
I
wanted to
think
say
that
something.
that's really elaborate. So for the
Yeah,
virtual interview, the key thing is to make sure that your tech is up and running, having tested it beforehand, so that
yeah.
if there are any technical issues, you would have detected them, rather than having to sort those issues out within the interview. Again, I think you also mentioned that you don't have a second chance to make a good first impression. And so the way you appear, the having mutual respect for agreed time of arrival, those are some of the things that really stands out for an employer. Thank you very much for sharing that. I want to get now into some of the common mistakes that job seekers make during an interview and how they can avoid them. Just to touch on that, Alfred is back. Alfred, are you back for real this time? Anyway, so for me, I think that is huge. Just as you would prepare for anything at all, interviews are that first conversation that you have to land your next opportunity. So if there's anything to prepare for at all, the interview is one of the main things to prepare for. Bright already mentioned and one of the mistakes that we see is how that people come into an interview and sometimes not knowing what company is interviewing them, have no idea about the job. So, aside wanting to find out from them their ability to do the job, you have to double up and now bring them up to speed on what the job is about and all of that. That is one of the things that we see very often, and that can make your interview go south once an employer gets the sense that you didn't take the process that seriously, to engage on some research to know about them before coming. They already lose interest, but many employers will just go through the motions, because they have already invited you. Another thing that we see a lot during interviews, especially for entry level people. When you've not prepared for responding to questions, it impacts your ability to ask relevant questions as well. I always say that when an interview is happening, okay, it's not everything that a recruiter or an employer will be able to ask you. So there are certain things that you want to touch on that highlights your ability to do the job that necessarily didn't happen, during the interview. So one other mistake that candidates make a lot is to shy away from the opportunity to ask questions. Some of them will say, well, I don't have any questions and all of that. But for an entry-level person, even mid-level senior people, we want to see, maybe in the interview, we didn't touch of anything that highlights your commercial awareness, your business acumen, your knowledge of the industry, your knowledge of the market, their competitors, and things like that. You should always craft one or two questions along these lines, just to highlight your understanding and mastery of the space. So those are two of the critical things that candidates use to shoot themselves in the foot. Bright, is there anything you'd want to share in this light?
I think the only thing I would like to share is over-rehearsed answers, okay, or questions, over-rehearsed questions. Sometimes candidates come into interviews and because they are to prepare, they believe that they have to memorize, and when they are unable to maybe remember one particular line or two, then they begin to fumble, and it will affect the whole interviewing process. So I would admonish that we don't actually rehearse by memorizing our interviewing questions and also the answers that maybe we've come across, but rather we could just have knowledge of the questions that could potentially be asked in the interview process.
Okay. And then also there's this thing about moderation. And what I mean by that is the amount of information that you dole out during an interview. There are a lot of people who might hold back, and there are a lot of people who also share, more than is necessary. For example, just yesterday, we were in an interview and someone was asked just a very simple question. The person went into extreme details. We had to cut it off at a point because we were beginning to feel violated by the person's response. Yes, so always bear in mind that the key thing is to share information about your ability to do the job without overdoing it. Also, holding back information won't help us to make the right decision about you. Okay, so moving on. For those with little to no work experience, and we have a lot of that. In fact, if you check our database, they make about, if I'm not exaggerating, 2/3. For those with little to no work experience, how should they position themselves as strong candidates? I'm very excited about this particular question because it looks like a dead end, because when we are looking for someone to do a job, we want someone who can actually do the job, isn't it? And so if you have little to no experience, how would you position yourself that, hey, I'm qualified for this job? I've been in a couple of speaking sessions where I shared some thoughts on this, but I'm going to roll this over to you, Bright, and then maybe I'll run some commentary on that.
Okay. So normally, people with little experience could be termed as those going for entry-level roles. Okay. So entry-level job seekers truly do not have much experience to share during the interview process. But we wouldn't place our analysis or our judgment on the technical skills that they've garnered in the field, but rather employers who would like to emphasize on your enthusiasm for the job. How passionate are you for the job? We want to see some passion. We want to see alacrity. We want to realize, we want to see that actually you are in it. It's not like you are passive, okay? Because that hunger in there is what we are actually looking for. So the enthusiasm is one aspect of the interviewing process that we don't really joke with when it comes to an entry-level job. Then also we look at transferable skills. What have you learned? Let me say, even during your project work, did you do it yourself? Were you able to use the project to maybe Excel to navigate, to generate data, analyze? Yeah, those are some of the skills, things that we want to see. So what are some of the transferable skills that you are bringing on board? Are you tech savvy? And the likes. So we look at these to make sure that we are positioning you for the job. Then we can also talk of your readiness to learn, because entry level roles actually, because you don't have much to show, how ready are you to learn? Okay, so in the learning process, we want to see how open are you. We know there are some people who are not good learners. They will actually let you know. So if you, during an interview process, if you hit and hit and hit, you realize that the person is not a teachable person. Okay, he's not someone who could submit and learn. And every organization have learnings, because there is something new in every organization. It could be even senior level. So when we are interviewing for an entry role, we actually look out to your growth processes and also how you want to learn.
Okay, thank you
And
very much, Bright. Eto and Bright, unfortunately, we've lost Alfred. I think he has issues with his internet, so I'll take over from here.
fine,
It's been
Genevieve.
37 minutes
That's
so
fine.
far. We have a few minutes more to go, but I hope that we can tackle the rest of the questions for our audience who have joined on LinkedIn, those who have joined on YouTube, and those who have also joined us on Facebook and Instagram. We have some questions popping up from LinkedIn, but before we delve into that, I would have to apologize to each and everyone who have joined because of Alfred. Alfred is also a recruiter here at Jobberman Ghana, but unfortunately, his internet is not helping him wherever he is currently. So I am taking charge. So you mentioned something about what recruiters look out for. So I also want to ask this question. Most often, we feel like if you're an entry level person and you're applying for jobs, sometimes we see jobs and we are like, this job is asking for 3 years experience, this job is asking for 5 years experience, but I don't have that form of that number of experience. What do I do when I go for such interview? For example, sometimes people are invited for interviews. They think they are not qualified. So when they get there, they feel overwhelmed. During that period, what should they do?
So
Eto.
Genevieve, for me, it starts right from getting the opportunity to interview in the first place. I always tell people that to really push through the pile to make it to an interview is like a Herculean feat, honestly, because you're looking at hundreds of applications and all of that. There were other people who were qualified, more qualified than you are. And so by the time you've been called for an interview, you already have one foot in the door. Nothing stops you from going ahead, to defend your ability to do the job. And that ties in strongly with the points that Bright made a few moments ago. The key thing is your ability to demonstrate. And I think that, we're going to get into that, how to structure your responses so that we can see in action what you are able to do, because that's what it comes down to at the interview, being able to convince of your ability to carry. The person called you for an interview, meaning I'm open to hear from you what you are able to bring to the table. Okay, so the key thing here is to structure your responses in such a way that it paints a vivid picture of your ability to deliver on the role. So the question of should I apply even if they're asking for more years? If you're convinced that you have what it takes to do the job, apply for it. And if you are called for an interview, imagine the other two, because for every job opening, we say there's an average of 250 applications. So if out of the 250, you were part of the 3 that were called, then, you have something to offer. The key thing is to go there and defend your ability to bring value to the table. So I'm sure subsequently we'll get into how to structure your responses.
Okay, thank you very much, Eto. Bright, I have a question for you. So, as a recruiter, for mid-level professionals, how can they showcase their growth level and then their readiness for senior level roles? How can they do that during interviews?
All right. So when it comes to mid-level jobs or roles per se, for you to showcase your growth and also your responsibility, I believe that first of all, you should be able to highlight specific achievements. Okay. Your achievements should be highly on top of issues because what have you been able to do over the years? Example, you've been in the system for about, let me say, 4, 7 years, 6 years. What are you bringing on board? So we want to see specific achievements that you held or you garnered over the years in the same role or similar role. Okay, so we want to see some matrices. So we can even move on to proving your productivity by using figures like putting it in percentile. We want to see the figures flying in your resume. Okay, so maybe you were an admin and you helped bidding a contract, and the contract helped in generating about 20% of the company's annual revenue. We want to see that particular thing. So those are some of the matrices that we want to see on your resume. So at the mid-level, actually, we are looking on how you demonstrate your achievements, okay, with specific matrices and also highlighting on some of the high points during your previous working or working on the role or working experience in the past.
Okay. Here is the case that some mid-level people, you see that they have gaps in their resumes. How do you address that? Because some go for interviews and they are being asked, how come you worked for this number of years and then there's a gap at this moment you're not doing it? What exactly? How do they tackle that? Eto, would you take that for me?
Yes. So, when you look at one of the biggest professional platforms in the world today, which is LinkedIn, you see that they have even created a slot for career break. So when you go on LinkedIn, you can actually give a description to a gap that you took as a career break and then actually outline the things that you did. Gone were the days where, it was like a mysterious thing you can address in an interview. But today, I mean, it's open knowledge that people take breaks for whatever reason. Sometimes for there are mothers that I've spoken to who took breaks to cater for one family responsibility or another. There are those who took time off completely to go to school. And so the key thing is to be able to frame the gap as a period of intentional choice. It's not like sometimes you come off as vulnerable if it was as if a situation forced you to take, or to make that decision. But if you can frame it as an intentional choice. I took time off for professional development, or I took time off for caregiving for a family or anything like that. Then again, you should also show your readiness to want to enter the workforce again by highlighting some of the things that you may have learned during the process. For example, if it was volunteering on a project that you are passionate about, or if it was furthering your education, or what are the key, you see, in an interview, we need to train ourselves to keep our eye on the ball. At the end of the day, yeah, you're telling stories about how I took a break to go to school and all of that. As a recruiter, I'm thinking about that thing you went to do. How does it impact? So ultimately, you should let me know, what did you gather with what were the learnings, within that period that would impact your ability to do the job. So those are two things you want to highlight. Make us see that it was an intentional choice, and that also whatever it is that you went to do ultimately will affect your ability to do the job. Okay. Okay, Genevieve is back.
I think I
Genevieve
was
is
I
on.
was I was speaking, but I was muted. So sorry about that. So if you just joined us, this is the Talking Talent webinar series. Today our topic is on mastering interviewing skills. We have recruitment experts here. They have been doing this for over 10 years. They have been interviewing people. Their daily job is more of interviewing people and getting people into appropriate roles. So if you have just joined us, this is Jobberman Ghana. If you are looking for a job, we are the right people to help you get your next opportunity. The year is ending. And I know some of us are looking for new jobs. If your next job opportunity comes in, are you really prepared for the interview? So we are here for you this afternoon. We have quite a couple of questions on LinkedIn. Before I go on, I just want you to answer this question for me. Now, it says that in this current space, network can be failing without your notice. Would that be considered in a virtual interview, please?
Yeah.
This
Look,
is
let me
coming
tell you
from Benjamin
something.
Yamwa. Benjamin Yamwa is joining us from LinkedIn.
Benjamin, I know, okay, I know that we experience technology failure here and there because we are in Africa. But my advice is you don't want to be the cliche, because it's for a typical African, or let me say a Ghanaian, to be expected that, oh, the person's internet is going to go off at a point. So is there a way you can fight to make that impossible? So maybe if that day you are going to work from home or something and you have an interview, is it possible to relocate to a place where you are very sure that your internet is not going to give up on you? Of course, depending on how critical you are to the kind of person the employer or the recruiter is looking for, they may make concessions to accommodate your challenges. But by the time you are having technological problems, especially when you've been given advanced notice, trust me, it doesn't go down well. And if it comes down to making a decision on someone, you have no idea the kind of things that people will look out for. Maybe both of you qualify, experience wise, training wise, or other soft competencies wise, and then it comes down to who at all should I choose. Your technology issue might just knock you, or shoot you in the foot. So you'd want to try as much as possible to avoid. I know that there are those situations where that is impossible and we can overlook that, but as much as possible, fight, to make sure that your tech doesn't give up on you.
Okay. So, Eto, I think let's delve into some questions that we have a lot of questions here. So, we have this one also coming in from, is it Remio Nibatu? He says, I keep applying for jobs on Jobberman, but I don't get a response. What's the key thing I need to do? You are the repeater.
My
Please stick to
colleague,
him for
right?
me.
Yeah. Okay. So, our friend here is not the only one. We've heard it so many times, and contrary to what many people think, that Jobberman is just a website. Jobberman is not a website. We have a website, but we are not a website. We are way more than that. And one of the systems that allows us to do our work actually is our website. Our website hosts what we call an applicant tracking system. Works just like the way LinkedIn works. And there are certain rules that you have to, your application materials, which is your CV especially, have to comply by. And if those rules are being broken, then that's the situation that you're going to be facing, that you'll be applying for jobs and all that. So a few key questions to help you. Are the jobs you are applying for matching with the CV you're using them for? If it's you're using one CV to apply for many of the jobs. Let me use maybe a marketer as an example. So if you are a marketing person, you have a marketing background, the marketing spectrum is really wide. These days, there's the traditional marketing, there's digital marketing, SEO marketing, there's communication special. It's really, really broad. And maybe you have 5 to 7 years training, having tested all these functions. But you'll find different jobs within marketing. You can't use one CV to be applying for all these jobs. For each job you see, we call something over here the 15-minute rule. You want to take time out and make sure that the job aligns with your document, the document you're about to upload in terms of the key skills the job is asking for, in terms of the responsibilities the job is asking for. And if these two things are not aligned, your CV will not be ranked at a level where it's possible for a recruiter to see and call. Typically, this is the main reason why you probably have applied so many times and then you're not being called for an interview. Yeah, Genevieve.
Okay, so I think I saw a question coming in about salaries. Yes. So 1 minute. Okay, so I have this question coming in from Felix. Felix says, what is the best way to answer a salary question, especially when the HR asks for your salary expectation? It's coming from Felix Apia. He's joined us on LinkedIn.
Maybe Mr. Williams is passionate
Right?
about
Would you
salaries.
take, would you
Oh,
take
I was
that up?
thinking you were talking. Okay, so when it comes to salary, actually, even before you go for an interview, immediately you've been reached out for an interview, kindly make sure that you research the company and also the industry for which the company is being in. And also know, is it an entry level role? Is it a mid level? Is it a senior level? Those are very key. Then you can move on to research about how much is the industry paying. Do you understand? You can even go as far as knowing how much the employer is paying. That is if you do your research very well. So we have what we call PaySpace, Glassdoor, and Codia sites that you can go to actually check how much you should be quoting during your interviewing sessions. By example is if you are let me say an entry level, because normally entry level
Hello, Bright, are you there?
All right, so let me continue. I think we went off at a
Yeah,
point, but
yeah, exactly,
yeah.
Internet issues.
Okay. All right. So when you know how much the industry is paying, the first thing is during the interviewing process, do not mention a particular figure, okay, like an amount, a specific amount. You can give a range of how much you want to be paid. It's very necessary during the interviewing process, okay. It helps the employer to know whether you fall within their range or outside their range. So salary is a necessary evil during the interviewing process. So for you to be a very good interviewer or candidate, definitely make sure that you have knowledge of how much the industry is paying. Then you also give a range when you are asked, so as you don't give a specific amount. So you can mention, let me say 3 to 6K or 5 to 6K, 7 to 8, depending on how much the industry is paying. But if you want to know much about salaries and also how much in an industry is paid, kindly visit Glassdoor or PaySpace to find out more information.
Okay, thank you, Bright, for that one. We have Suweba Yakubu on LinkedIn asking us this question. She says, what if all what you did wasn't, I think when you're talking about the job experience level,
Yeah.
she says, what if all what you did was internships but no major jobs? All the jobs I think she's trying to say that all what you see is 3 years and more experience. What do you do?
Okay. I'm going to just reiterate what I said
I
before.
think you mentioned that earlier.
When we supposing if this was a session on maybe CV writing, I would say that the way you represent that information in your CV is also very important. Unfortunately, in our parts, experiences that we gain from internships are not considered experiences. Experiences that we gain from a whole year of national service is also trivialized, and I don't understand it. So I asked, did you not wake up every morning and go to the office and do actual work? So why isn't it considered as valuable experience? Bright is a recruiter here. He would tell you that internship opportunities we count as very valuable experience. But the thing is, how are you communicating? So you see, again, it comes to how to structure your responses. And I mentioned that you also keep your eye on the ball. How are you showcasing your ability to do this job through, vocalizing what you are able to do? On the CV, for example, I advise that national service is one whole year. And when you were there, you were probably maybe a front office manager or a data entry person or one assistant or another. That's what you put there. You don't put national service there because unfortunately it will be trivialized, but it's a whole year's experience and you had a job title whilst you were doing that. So you put that there. Now, again, I said that you push to a pile of 250 applicants to be called for an interview. And the employer or the recruiter probably saw that it was 3 months. So, of course, that would be an internship. But what you did is what I want to hear you articulate. So I've called you for an interview in spite of the fact that it was an internship. But now that you are sitting across from the table from me, how are you going to defend your ability to do the job? That's what it really boils down to. I hope I have answered Suebe's question.
Possibly you have done your bit. So I have this one also coming from Joseph. Joseph says it's okay. It looks like HRs or recruiters don't get back to them after interviews. Why? And then what really is the reason? He wants to know. Joseph wants to know what exactly is the reason.
Okay, so
Recruiters are ghosting
Yeah,
candidates.
all right. So one of the key things, especially for an organization like ours, and probably for other employers that we have engaged with, is because of the volumes that we deal with. And that's why there's been the automation system to fast track what we do, keep everything end to end within one space. So what happens is that at the end of an initial engagement, a recruiter will let you know that we'll get in touch with you within this number of time if you are able to progress to the next stage. And the reason that happens is because of the volumes. Quite frankly, you may not be able to come back to respond to everybody one after the other, keeping tabs with them and giving them updates. Okay, that's why we also advise candidates that after the amount of time they told you they're going to get back to you, if within the period, typically 2 weeks, they haven't gotten back to you, you can drop a subtle message via email or text or whatever other platform you were engaging them on to follow up. And most likely the professional recruiter will get back to you with a response on what the process is like. And if you were unsuccessful, that is also communicated as well. Unfortunately, that's not the case. We are unable to speak for other recruiters and other employers, but most likely that is happening and is probably going to keep happening. But you should maybe hold the end of the bargain on your side by following up after 2 weeks if you haven't heard anything. Mr. Williams, I don't know if there's anything you want
Okay,
to
so
add.
before you go on, Eto, so right, you answered Felix Appiah's question with regards to the salary. He's asked a follow-up question that some of the human resource executives or managers, they already know the salary for the role, but they also go on, or the recruiters, you go on to ask, what is your salary expectation? And he feels it's not fair. Why do we do that as a recruiter? He's asking why. He just doesn't understand.
All right.
If I'm a job seeker and I go for an interview and I feel that there is a budget for the role, do I still need to mention an amount, or because it looks like he's not getting what he wants? In this case, what do you do?
Yeah, okay. So actually, the reason why recruiters or employers will even always would like to ask how much you want to be paid is we want to find out if you've actually researched about the company and how much they are actually paying, or you've researched about the industry, okay, and know how much the industry is paying. And secondly, they would also love to know, do you understand? See, everybody has what satisfies him or her. So they wouldn't want to impose or superimpose an amount to you where at the end of the day you just say, oh, okay, let me take it just like that. But they first of all want to hear from you what will be meaningful to you as a salary. So because before you answer that particular question, you might have calculated your TNT to the other factors or other cost factors that come in play to taking the role. So actually, they want to know if you fall within their range, which is also another element. Why we always want to ask the questions. The reason is that we want to find out what your preferences are and if you fall within the range of the employer. Eto, I don't know if you have something to add up to what I've said.
Yeah, and typically, yeah, Felix is right. We most likely have the budget as recruiters. Also, the employer already knows what they want. As a recruiter, we want to know, okay, what you genuinely want, unbiased and influenced by what the client is offering, because many people get disgruntled along the way, just accepting anything because the employer mentioned it. And once you are dissatisfied, it impacts your service delivery. So for us, that's the reason, yes, we know the budget, but what do you want? The joy of the recruiter is that we're able to match what your expectation is. And so once you tell us that this is what we have, say, oh, okay, great. It's actually within the budget. And what we also do is that we provide an insight, whether it's within the budget, whether you are quoting below the market rate or you are significantly above the market rate. So we do all that just to guide the conversations on salaries, not necessarily because we are trying to hold back and shortchange you in case you mention something that's below what was designated for the role.
Okay, thank you very much, Eto and Bright. Yeah, so during interviews and then when we are applying for jobs, we all know that recruiters will ask for our referees. Somebody is asking, can you apply for a job without indicating references on your CV? So usually you see people write their referees on their CV. You are the recruiters. Please advise. Is it appropriate to have your referees on your CV, or you state upon request? Which of them is the appropriate one?
I think we get this all the time. It depends on where you are in the employment cadre. So if you're an entry-level person, I always advise that the competition within that pool is really tight. When I say for every job opening, there's an average of 250 applications. It typically applies to entry level non-technical roles. And so imagine, okay, as a recruiter, I have 3 days to submit a short list to my clients of maybe 3 candidates. We've gone through the process. I get my 3 candidates, and as part of the process, I'm supposed to run reference checks. And 2 of them have their references on the CVs. I can just call directly, and then the other person says available on request. So I have to go do the double work of trying to reach you, to try to reach your, look at how much time that impacts my timeline significantly. And a recruiter is all about timelines. But as a mid-level person, from your CV, we can see a track record. You've demonstrated your ability to handle all of that. And so you can hazard, putting there that available on request, we won't have a choice but to reach out to you for those references. So it really depends. I advise that as entry level people, it's safer to just put it there. Mid level up, it's okay to put it there. But if because of the volume of information on your CV, you prefer to exclude that so that we request for it, we really don't have a choice sometimes. Yeah.
Okay, somebody also will be asking himself, if you ask me to put my referees on my CV, there are some people they don't want their information elsewhere unless you tell them that, okay, this is what I am doing with this information. How about if you apply for a job and you insert the person's details and the CV ends up somewhere else? What do you do?
Okay, so Jen, rule of thumb is to always inform whoever's details you're going to put on your CV. That's like you can't put a reference there of someone who doesn't know. That's the first thing. And then secondly,
Sure.
once the person has intimated the fact that I don't want my details over there, you probably should be looking for a different reference, or you should take a proactive approach that the person that I, in engaging with an employer, the person that I really want to be a referee would prefer their information not to be out there. And so I prefer a contact, direct contact. So I would do an initial introduction, something along those lines.
Okay.
But if if the person doesn't want the information out there, there's nothing you can do about it really. But you should
So
just be
in this
proactive.
case, who qualifies to be your referee? So
So
if you're
people
looking
who
for
have,
someone to be a reference in for your reference, and
you
who
can't
qualifies
use
to
your
be?
in-law, you can't use your parents, you can't, anyone that is authorized to speak to your formal training and also to speak to your professional experiences. Those are the people that we want to see on your, because if you put your mom on your CV as your reference, it doesn't validate anything. But if you
What
put
if
someone,
the company I did internship with belongs to my father or my mother, and my mother was my boss?
I'm
What do I
sure there are
do?
other persons within the organization who have experienced your service delivery. It's just safe to use someone who is not directly related to you, unless, of course, during an interview. But most likely, once someone sees Bright Williams, and then your references maybe Francis Williams, that's your dad, it just raises some kind of reference. So if within the organization there's someone who is also authorized to speak to your ability to do the job, it's safer that way.
Okay, thank you, Eto. So someone is asking a question to Weber again. She says, if does it mean you have failed if you are unable to answer all questions during a job interview? It's like you've written an examination and you failed all questions. Anyway, but this one, I am not a
Yeah,
recruiter.
so
Should I answer here?
Sueba, like I really understand where you're coming from. But the
So I feel
truth
that the
is,
questions you couldn't
the
answer
person
all.
asking you the questions also doesn't have all the answers there are in the world. Okay.
Hmm.
But it's how you respond to your inability to answer a particular question. I don't subscribe to the fact that you failed if you couldn't answer all the interview. But what kind of question are we talking about? There are certain things that are critical to the role that we need to find out, in an interview. Those things you should be able to, but maybe there are some recruiters who want to test your knowledge of things that are happening within your common knowledge within your space or trending issues within your space. If for some reason you are not on top of your game in that area, you couldn't answer what the stock exchange rate at a particular time was. That's something that you can always find out later. But if there are technical things that apply to your ability to do the job you just told us you're able to do, and we're asking a question on those basics and you're unable to answer, then that's a bit of a red flag. But even that, you can let a recruiter know that, "Oh, I'm not privy to the entire scope of the answer to this question, but I will look into it's an interesting one, and I would look into it subsequently."
And would the person have the
Because
chance for another interview?
we all yes, so you've been honest about that's a key, that's another thing in interviews, honesty. Imagine beating up about the bush, spending 7 minutes saying nothing, as against just going straight to the point that, "Oh, I'm
Right,
unable to
yeah.
provide a response to this. I would look into it subsequently." Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was what I was about touching on. How you even answer the question wrongly plays a role. If you are not really privy to the question, just don't attempt. Just let it pass. Than trying to weave something that isn't really even closer to the answers.
Okay, thank you very much, Bright. And we're supposed to end the webinar at 2, but it looks like it's getting more interesting and engaging. We have more questions that we haven't given answers to. So I think we're going to take more and end at 2:30. So I have one here. It's coming from Kofi Hene. He's asking if he can add his pastor as a referee. Okay, yes, so as one of his references. So is it also a good one to add the pastor of his church? I think Kofi is joining us all the way on YouTube. Yes.
There are certain people whose pastors' influence over them goes beyond just their engagements within the church. Okay. For example, my pastor, aside being a pastor, is also a consultant. He actually sits on a number of boards of businesses in this country. He's someone whose opinion I seek professionally. Like, he's one of my top mentors when it comes to my professional life, even though he's a mentor. For somebody like that, you can put him there as your, but in the reference information, you have the person's name, you have what they do. So it depends on what kind of relationship. Is he just your spiritual mentor? Beyond that, he has some influence in your professional life. If he does, then he has to have some kind of a title that explains that, but because, again, putting your pastor there, the question is, does he know what you've done in your professional life? Does he know what you've acquired in your formal training? Yes, so that's how I see this. I don't know what. So in my case, it's safe to use my pastor because he's a pastor and consultant. So in
At the
my
same
CV,
time.
you'll find pastor this, pastor/consultant, email address, contact.
Okay, that's fine.
Ah.
All right. So Alfred Ezwa is joining us also from YouTube, and he's asking, in the case that your reference happened to be a person who worked in one of the collapsed companies. I think I'm confused here. So he's trying to say that if the person is no more, the business that he used to work with is no more.
That's folded up.
We
Yeah.
still use the person as a referee.
Your referee. So
Yeah.
the people are people. The business is not the person. Okay. So once the business has folded up, the person probably moved on to something else, and he is the one that's able to give testament to your ability to do the job. So whether the company folded up or not, if the person is authorized to share with us, what you're able to do professionally, you can still go ahead and use that person.
Okay, that's good. So Kwesi Kumson says, is it appropriate to ask for your scores after a job interview?
There are candidates that
Depends.
ask, how did I do? Mr. Williams?
Yeah. normally I hardly will you even be able to tell them how they've performed. But at that point in time, you know whether they've made your shortlist or not.
Okay.
So most times, if the news is a bad news, you rather relent on sharing. But if it's a good one, sometimes yeah, we share. But
You
if it's a
share with
bad
them.
one, yeah, we try to just let you know that maybe we have a couple of interviews or there are a lot of people in the system we are interviewing. So maybe be on the lookout, and we believe you did averagely well. So we will just let you feel okay. But to me, at a point, I try as much as possible to let you know your shortfalls. Okay, because especially if you do not pass, once in a while, I try as much as possible to make you know that maybe you did this wrong, and I think you need to beef them up. Example, your tech skills. If you were not able to join, you couldn't navigate joining maybe the virtual platform, or maybe a technical answer which is a no-go area for the employer. So all those things, if truly I feel I should share, sometimes I do share. But I normally share the good ones to the, the bad ones.
Okay, I was
And
trying to
to
project
his
another.
his
Okay.
question again, yeah, you reserve the right to ask, how did I do? It's not wrong. It just demonstrates your curiosity to know what the next steps are going to be looking like for you. So yeah, you can ask.
Okay, so this is also coming from Joseph on LinkedIn. Joseph has a very long. I was trying to project it, but it looks like it will cover Bride's face, so I just have to read it. It says, "I had an interview recently and was asked of my analytical skills. I made mention of the skills I know I possess, which I equally reflect at my present place of work. The way my recruiter sounded okay already shows I can't get the job. I want to know what are the analytical skills to confirm if I am right. Please help me secure my next interview." Is it clear? Is it clear?
Yes, Genevieve, I just wish Joseph would let us in on what he mentioned as analytical skills.
Skill, yeah.
Yeah.
So Joseph, if you're still with us, you can just share with us. Okay,
Because
so
then
this is
that would
come
help us.
give a perfect answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so Anna Adafo is also joining us from LinkedIn. She says, "What are some of the questions you may ask the panel after a job interview?"
All right, so you can ask as a candidate after a very successful interview, you can ask what will make me flourish in this role, or what are some of the traits that will make me flourish on this role. In one way or the other, you are trying to find out what you will be doing in case you are given the opportunity, what will make you a very successful candidate when you are being given the nod. And
Okay.
also, you can ask about, is there anything that you would love to know, okay, about the organization? Sometimes you would love to know more about maybe whether it's a group, whether they have subsidiaries and co. So it depends on where exactly you are coming from. Yeah.
Okay, so
For
there's an
a
interesting
min
question here. Eto, are you
I
yeah,
think
I
adding
was
Majama
up?
just
wanted
going
to come
to
in. Yeah.
comment
Sure,
on that.
sure. You finish up. Finish up.
Okay, so it's very important, especially if you are mid-level upwards, to have a working, not just a basic appreciation, but a working knowledge of what's happening within your space. Every employer wants to see that you are able to demonstrate that mastery. And so it's another opportunity to ask questions around the industry, show knowledge. I know that this person and that person are your competitors within the space. Over the years, how have you managed, to excel within the space? So the person knows that, okay, the person understands the space, knows what my competitors are and all of that. And sometimes you frame the question for your advantage to really highlight the fact that I know my stuff, in case during the interview that wasn't touched on.
Okay, so there's an interesting question from Felix. It says, does a first class degree put a candidate ahead of a job selection?
I'll say no. I will say no because
Why?
companies actually aren't recruiting first class holders. I would
What are
love
they
to
looking
share
for?
a personal. They are looking for culture fits and also people who really have the technical skills that they are looking for. I will share an experience where I was interviewing a first class student, and all he knew was he went to school and he was doing very well with his books. He never networked. He all everything about him was just getting first class. So even to the point of
No
asking about
extracurricular activities.
yes, so even to the point of asking about a name of one of his lecturers, he couldn't. So you could see that we wouldn't want to base judgments on a first class or a class which you held because someone with a third class can demonstrate exact traits an employer is looking for and could get a job. And you'll be having a first class thinking with a first class. So normally what candidates with first class holders do is that they highlight the first class on their CVs which truly do not really add value to the maybe you are not even having a very well structured resume but you have a first class somebody with a third class could have a well organized AI applicant tracking like 8 years compliant resume and the person will be called for an interview you
Interview.
thinking your first class could have landed you the interview or even a job and you could be swayed by just highlighting your or paying much attention to the class. But I believe that you should pay much attention to the skills, the transferable skills, and also what you've been able to do and what you can do. Yeah, and that's
We
what it is about.
recently did Jobberman actually at the group level launched a research recently that shows that employers are hiring people for their skill, their ability to do the work and not necessarily because of the qualifications that they've gathered formal training wise. However, to give another perspective to this question, I don't know if you are aware of the graduate management programs that most of the multinationals and sometimes the top four or the big accounting firms and all of that. Some of them use the first class degree because they're looking for a certain how do they call that thing, right? Is it GPA?
Yeah, FCGPA.
Yes. Okay, all right. So some of them are looking for a certain level of the GPA. Other schools call it something else, but I'm sure you get the drift of what I'm driving at. In that case, then it's to your advantage if that's showcased it. But as Bright was saying, largely employers are no longer impressed by that because as recruiters, sometimes people have bagged two masters and when you interact with them it can be a little bit unfortunate to just put it mildly.
Okay, so employers are looking for people with the right skills for the job, not just certificates, right? All right. Thank you very much, Eto and Bright. I think Joseph is back. He's telling us that analytical skills that he possesses is critical thinking, investigation skill, problem solving skills, and more. So he says, is this the right question for analytical skills? Recruiters, are you there?
It's great to invest problem solving and more. Is this the right is this the right? I think that we've been saying from the beginning of the webinar. Yeah, of course, some of the things that you mentioned there are they speak to your analytical skills. Um, the first thing though is your ability to think critically, being able to diagnose problems because the first key to solving a problem is to be able to diagnose that this is a problem. So do you know that this is even a problem? Once you've done that, what are that steps you're going to take to resolve it? They want to see your logical reasoning, how you're able to reason logically, innovate, be creative. The key thing is not to list that I have these analytical skills. The key thing is, how do I incorporate that in my responses? Okay, so that's a key thing. How do I structure my responses? What scenarios am I going to create? And to help candidates, sometimes a recruiter will switch to a situational or behavioral interview structure just to get out of them the kind of information they're looking for. So maybe the recruiter sounded disappointed because those analytical skills were not articulated in a way that convinced them that you actually are that analytical.
Okay, thank you very much, Eto. So to our very last question for the day, it's coming from Stephanie Seke on LinkedIn. Stephanie says, what are some of the interview questions we expect for a graduate trainee program? Eto, would you take this?
I think,
Stephanie,
yeah,
so
yeah, take it.
I think she joined
it's
late.
yeah, so we're just going to reiterate the same things. In the interview, I say that it's a two-way street. It's a conversation with a purpose. The purpose is that you are looking for a job, and then I have that opening I'm looking for the right fit for. There are certain questions that's a no-brainer. They are going to ask you to tell me about yourself. It doesn't matter whether whatever interview it is, most likely are going to be asked to tell about yourself. Most likely, a lot of the conversation is going to center around the job description. It's something that you should know about. Most likely, they're going to ask about your knowledge of the organization. It's something that you should be prepared for. Most likely, they are going to ask about your strengths and your weaknesses, how those two things complement each other. As an entry-level person, fresh graduate, they are going to test a lot of your soft skills, team collaboration, communication, adaptability, resilience. They're going to test those things because it's obvious that on the technical side, you may not be that strong, and they will be willing to bring you up to speed on that. Then again, they would ask you about salary. Then they would ask you, do you have any questions for me? I've just I've just taken you through the rigors of a typical interview
Exactly.
for a graduate.
Yeah. I said that was going to be the last question, but it looks like another interesting question just popped up again from Felix, and it's saying, does age matter during recruitment?
Yeah, I think when
Does
it
it
comes
matter?
to age, it's employer specific, okay? And normally, employers will state a
Questions are
range,
coming in
an
late.
age range, yeah, an age range where you must meet. Maybe a prior experience that they've had with past candidates had given them a view, or maybe they've experienced something that they feel now they have to incorporate age into their recruitment modalities, or let me say standards. So adding age, truly age do not play a major role in the recruitment process, because somebody could be 40 and be vying for an entry role. Employers or recruiters or employers will not shy away from hiring you. But the issue is when the employer is specific on the age, then the recruiter has no chance than to make sure that because recruiters always put the employer at the forefront. Okay, so the issue is that we're trying to make sure we satisfy the needs of the employer. So if they are requesting for an age range, normally we advise, but we don't insist on, because somebody could be above or outside the age range that they are shared, who could be even more experienced to those that they are even the bracket they are trying to refer to. But after our admonishment, we believe that we work strictly to what the employer requests, but truly age doesn't matter.
Okay, thank you very much, Bright. The questions are coming. I have a lot of them that we haven't tackled, and time is fast spent. Another interesting question has popped up. I don't know whether we should continue or we should end it. So, what do we do? Should we continue or should we end it?
You are the
Okay,
chair.
so I'm
I'm
the chair.
and we came for them. We came for them, and so
Okay,
this is
so
over to you. And audience.
Okay. So it's saying that is there something special about people because they ask you, "Are you married?" Sometimes you go for an interview and they ask you, "Are you married?" What is so special about that? Why do they ask that question?
Well, I have barely asked that question, so maybe Bright can provide some insight. The person said, then why do they ask, "Are you married?"
Why do they ask, "Are you married?"
I think I recruited one guy for a recent role about some couple of months ago, and the guy came and said, "Okay, I was hired." But they asked me, "Are you married?" And I said, "Hey," but the truth was he wasn't married. So, and I said, "So if they find out that you are not married, how will you handle it?" So I'm about getting married. So more of I'm living with a woman in my room. So there's no way it's more or less marriage. But you
Is that
see,
You
not
know,
dishonesty?
yeah, so it's one thing that you don't want to do. Somebody asked that, should I be completely honest in an interview? And my question is, would you want to start off a relationship based on a lie? Eventually you will be with the people within the same space. So whatever you said that was contradictory is going to come to the light anyway, and then you will
Yeah.
be found wanting. Now, there are some questions that are um a bit touchy. But I think an employer reserves the right to know what your marital status is. So it's not completely out of the question. The thing for me is the motive behind asking.
Behind the
If
question.
you're just asking to know the person better, that's fine. Maybe your business is a family oriented one, and so you want to, know the person within their family context. So, are you married? Now, unfortunately, some employers are asking the woman, "Are you married?" because, okay, if they are married, they are just projecting, okay, how long ago were you married? 2 years ago. Hey, meaning you are ready for going into the baby making phase. We
yeah.
are going to be at home for 3 months and I'm going to be paying you salary. Nah, let me move on to the next person. So it's the motive. Okay. Now the other thing is, some people feel like once the person comes to that point of making a decision to settle down, it shows some kind of maturity. I do not subscribe to that. Okay, so well, it depends on the motive. You don't have anything to lose in your responses as to whether you are married or not. Yes, if you are married, you are married. If you are not married, you are not married. You have some value you are bringing to the table, and if an employer is going to make a decision based on your marital status, then that's their loss.
Sure.
Yeah, Genevieve, and also adding to what Eltonam is saying, I think I was working on one role and the employer was insistive that he wants a married person. Okay. And the reason is that he said those the Gen Zs when they come, they are not stable. So he feels within a year, 6 months, they are leaving. And he wants someone who would stay for a longer period. And most of his staffs are married people who had stayed for more than 3 to 4 years. So maybe he have that particular employer has a statistics to prove that this is why I side with those who are married.
Married
So
people.
sometimes it depends on the employer and their experiences over the years. It also gives them an idea of whom they should engage.
Okay. So Jennifer wants to know, should pregnancy stop a recruiter from giving you a job even if you qualify?
To be very honest with you, okay, also in the age where we are exploring on a deeper level issues of inclusion and diversity, in the age of technology where for many roles people do not necessarily have to be available physically to be able to carry out their responsibility, I think that it shouldn't stop a recruiter, but then it also depends on what stage. I mean, if you're in your final stages, it's like, I'm hiring you for a role that you will not be able to ultimately carry out for some time.
Maternity.
So it doesn't make business sense. But maybe in the early stages, that means that you have like several months, maybe 7 months to make a decision. And to be honest with you, there are forward-thinking organizations who will be considerate if they know for a fact that you are able to do the job. We at Jobberman play facilitatory roles, which also means that we advise our clients on best practice and what will work for their advantage. And so we would definitely give a thumbs up for somebody who is in their early stages and is like the best person for the job. And then the decision will now lie with the employer. So for us recruiters, we are not stopped by an issue of pregnancy, depending on what stage of pregnancy you are in.
Okay, thank you very much, Eto and Bright. Any last words for our audience? Bright, your last words.
Okay, I would want to highlight on one or two errors that employees or candidates make when it comes to how they present themselves on their CV, on their CVs. It's so important for a candidate to be very we believe that for every candidate to be considered for an interview, we want to see attention to detail as one of the things that you should actually pay attention to. Like you should be having attention to detail. You should be very ready for that. So you shouldn't be putting contact numbers that are for WhatsApp only on your CV. It's a put off. And also when you are to write, let me see, even we know lately we've gone through a cycle where some contact number had been cancelled and also being deactivated from the system. And we've had a couple of challenges where candidates put these contacts that unfortunately we are unable to reach out to them. Some of them, their emails are wrong. So let's pay much attention. And also, we should be checking for grammar. I wouldn't advise that candidates should go for an AI to write their resumes for them. It shows that you are not really paying attention and you are not a critical thinker. You cannot create. So use your own words to write your own resumes. Then as well, references shouldn't be put on your resume if you know you will not contact them before submitting your application. I'm saying it again. Make sure that your references are aware before you actually submit their names or write their names and details on your resume as a reference, because that is why senior roles actually hardly will you see them put their resumes in there. The issue is that for every role, make sure that you have a tailored resume for the job. Do not just have a prototype where you fly over, because candidates are found of just flying over one resume from one job to the other. About for 5 months, they'll be having one particular resume and they'll be flying it over 20 different jobs. It doesn't tell a good story about you. And the truth is that the AI now, because we are using an AI to screen and even pass our resumes, you will not be seen because you don't have the keywords that the CV, the job description is trying to highlight. So it is very, very important that we pay attention to our references being contacted before we share their details on our resumes, and as well as making sure that you have error-free resumes and less typos and good contact numbers who are reachable. So if you have a WhatsApp number, WhatsApp only number, I will acknowledge that we take them off our resumes as we put active contacts on it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Bright. Eto, your last words for your audience.
Yeah, so this was about mastering interview skills, and I said in the beginning that one of the things that affects candidates is the thinking behind interviews. So the key takeaway for me, for everyone, is that interviews are conversations with a purpose. Number one, interviews are a two-way street. You're giving us information that we require to make a decision about a vacancy. If you think about it that way, it should relax you enough to be able to articulate the things that you already know and have done. And I mean, you should be able to scale through your interviews.
Okay, thank you very much, Eto. I think you can see on the screen the feedback from your audience. They really enjoyed the session. Unfortunately, this is our very last webinar for the year. we'll have our next webinar next year, possibly in January. So John Tay, you are asking where is our office located in Ghana? So in Ghana, we are located at Jolu Junction, right opposite Fiesta Royal Hotel at Jolu Junction. You can call us if you want direction 054-290-4650, and we will direct you here. So thank you very much, Eto and Bright. Bright Williams is a recruitment HR consultant here at Jobberman Ghana, and Eto Namwadi is a recruitment lead at Jobberman Ghana. Thank you very much for this insightful session. And to my audience, wherever you joined us from, thank you so much for joining. We're supposed to do just 1 hour, but because you needed the information and it became more engaging, we had to extend it. And it's so unfortunate that Alfred left us along the way. He was the original host for this webinar. I quickly had to sit in for him. So if you are new to Jobberman or you're still looking for your next opportunity, I recommend that you sign up on www.jobberman.com.gh. We don't charge you anything if you apply for jobs on Jobberman, but if you're looking to write a CV, we will charge you something little and we'll give you a perfect CV that will get you your next job interview. So Bright and Eto, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
My name is Genevieve Amponsa, and I also encourage you, if you are looking for more information on CV writing, on job interviewing skills, on how to scale up also in your career, you can also log on to www.jobberman.com.gh/discover. You get a whole lot of articles there, not for job seekers alone, but also for employers. And I must also announce that we have this Buzzard series that comes to you every Friday. So look out for it. It's called The Office Buzz. Tomorrow expect the series 4. And it's on, should I tell them the topic? Or it should be a surprise? Okay, so my team says it should be a surprise tomorrow. If you haven't read the very first three, the very first one was on office gossips, and then the second one was on office romance, and then the third one is, I think the third one was rather on office romance, so the second one was rather on punctuality paradox. So if you haven't read any of them, please visit www.jobberman.com.gh/discover and get that. Okay, so I can see somebody give me some shout outs over there on LinkedIn. Yes, I enjoy that. Thank you very much, Benjamin, for joining us. Thank you, Gideon. Thank you, Sueba, Charles, Cephas, Jennifer, Felix, yes, Alfred Azua on YouTube, Christian Dunu, Oman, Stephanie, John Tay, and I think Joseph. If I didn't mention your name and you joined us, thank you for joining. Let's meet another time in 2025. Have a good afternoon. Bye.
Job hunting tip 101. So today on our job hunting tip, we're saying job hunting is work on its own. I hope you've heard that. Yes, searching for a job is likened to an entrepreneur who has ideas and looking for an investor to bring his ideas to reality. As a job seeker, see yourself as a business owner ready to sell your services. So the question now is, what is your value? Think about this. Dear job seeker, still wondering where to find your next opportunity and level up with Jobberman? Your next career step begins with us. Sign up today.
Tired of searching endlessly for the right job? With Jobberman, you are in control. We connect you to top job opportunities right at your fingertips. But it doesn't stop there. Jobberman also offers essential skills training so that you can grow and stay competitive. Plus, you will get personalized job ads for roles tailored to your experience and interests. No more missed opportunities. Unlock your potential, achieve your career goals, and take the next step with Jobberman Ghana today. Sign up now and start your journey towards a better career.
my name is Fauzia Mutalib, and last year in November, I was fortunate to be part of the MFIT project organized by Jobberman in collaboration with GIZ. I was able to secure a job through Jobberman and the MFIT project with CBG Ghana. I currently work as an IT control monitoring officer with the internal control department, and for the past 6 months, I have a job and I'm happy. So I'm grateful to Jobberman Ghana and GIZ for organizing the MFIT project, which has helped me secure a job, a permanent job. So thank you, and hopefully the project continues and more people are able to benefit from it. Thank you, Jobberman. Thank you, GIZ.
My name is Jane Ochidiachi. I work with American Chamber of Commerce Ghana as External Relations and Special Projects. I also manage the members of the Chamber. American Chamber of Commerce Ghana is a representative arm of the U.S. businesses and subsidiaries, voluntarily working to create an environment where businesses can thrive between Ghanaian and the American communities. We at AmCham, we promote the commercial, economic, educational, and cultural ties between the United States of America and the Republic of Ghana. AmCham is the first point of resort for sourcing business contacts for U.S. trade and congressional delegation. Over the years, we have met with a lot of trade delegations and briefed them. At AmCham, we actually had a need for a communications officer. We reached out to Jobberman. We contacted them for the executive recruitment package, and that was a good one. Within 7 working days, yes, they delivered for that support, and it's been amazing. He's good, he's innovative, he's a team player, always ready to help. He's always all over. Everybody is happy with him. I think Jobberman did a good job. They actually did their search and ensured that they got what exactly we are looking for. So if you need to fill in any position in your institution, contact Jobberman and you'll be a delighted customer like us. Jobberman, I know, is the best when it comes to recruitment.